Okay, this is part two um, of my philosophy, and I want to talk about America. Now, I have a big problem with America. First of all, America is not the greatest country in the world. By the layperson standards, you can say that England would be considered the greatest country in the world by far. But America has the potential to be a great place and a great leader. But the problem with America is that we're quickly dismantling the foundations which America was built. The Constitution, which is our most precious and important document, which is the roots of America, um, it, the Constitution is nothing more than an old piece of paper to the society of today. You know, everyone in today's society wants to advance financially, technologically, egotistically, and if the Constitution stands in their way, they will override it, and they have. We've become so engulfed in technology in this man-made world we live in, we forget there's more to life than lumber, drywall, appliances, finance. I feel it's important to be in touch with what was given to us as opposed to what we created for ourselves. You know, today we have epidemics of cancer, but why? Why do we have so much cancer? Well, let's look at the people getting cancer. You know, they're not all smokers. In fact, the whole smoking causes cancer is very overrated. In fact, most people who get cancer just get it from living and working and just their day-to-day life. The auto body technician, the steel worker, the construction worker, they're all the faces of cancer. You see, when we were given this planet and all of its elements, we were given everything we needed to live happily and healthily. However, mankind has been separating chemicals, recreating raw elements, and there are chemicals and elements that we were never meant to have around us every day. So our bodies were not designed to handle these elements. Our planet was not designed to handle these elements either, as a matter of fact. You know, that's partly why we have environmental issues. But America needs to focus less on technology and more on understanding. We've been carelessly wielding technology without any regard to our future, but yet with the intention of regard to our future and our children's future. Let us look at global warming. We've known about this since the 80s. But we've been allowing our government, which is controlled not by our president, who is nothing more than a spokesman, but by our Congress. And let's look at Congress. I mean, there's not a single member of Congress that's still going to be alive in 20 years. So right now they're living it up. You know, they won't let us see how much damage we are doing, nor will they ever admit any mistakes America has made. The government hides vital information from us in order to get what they want out of us, whether it be lowering gas prices to try to get people to think, oh, the economy must be doing better, or whether it's paying off experts to say global warming is a myth. If you want to know what's going on in America, then don't listen to what our government has to say, because they're not going to tell you about American troops in Iraq running over civilians with Humvees for their own sick entertainment. They're not going to tell you about the numerous foreign nuclear threats that we receive on a weekly basis. They're not going to tell you that your tax money, what it's spent on, and they're certainly not going to tell you that unless you work for the government, you don't even technically have to pay taxes, which 99% of Americans think that they are required to pay taxes, when it's actually, in fact, illegal for the government to tax any exchange of goods or services in the private sector. Now, the government controls us by forcing us to believe in something that certainly is not what it seems. I say don't believe in the government. Don't believe in society. Believe in yourself. Believe in God, because this country is about to crash, and it's about to crash hard. The government was never supposed to have control over the private sector, but yet they control our food, our medicine, our gas, now our financial institutions. So unless you support a communist dictatorship, then steer clear of the government, because they will chew you up, they will spit you out, and then they will point the finger at the terrorists. Now, I don't support terrorism. I think it's just a stupid primeval way of trying to get people to listen to you. It's no surprise that a private extremist group could have gone as far as the Al Qaeda has, especially since they know what they want and they know what they're fighting for, whereas the U.S. military is just doing what they're told and not what they think they're supposed to do. I can't help but wonder where all of the American private militia groups are to help counterattack these terrorists. Um, I guess when you are a zombie U.S. citizen and you just expect the good old U.S. of A. to take care of you, what about the victims of Katrina? They're still all homeless. It's. I was watching an episode of Top Gear, which is a BBC show, one of my favorite shows, and there was an episode where they came to America to film their documentary, and they came to New Orleans, and they were absolutely shocked at the sight of New Orleans. And this was 2 years after Katrina. And the host of Top Gear, Jeremy Clarkson, had mentioned, and I quote, "I had heard about how bad Katrina was hit, but after 2 years, I just assumed the wealthiest country in the world would have fixed it all up by now. I couldn't be more wrong." End quote. Why is New Orleans still in shambles? Well, it's because the government refuses to spend money on rebuilding an area that consists of lower class citizens. They know that the economy there is so small that it would be nothing more than a great loss of money to help the citizens of New Orleans. The only people helping the victims of Katrina are members of the private sector. The government is like a cancer spread all over America. They have a hand in everything. And if you've noticed, girls as young as 7, 8 years old these days are developing breasts. And I don't know if you know that, but this is due to the hormones found in dairy products and milk. And the government regulates this milk and allows the hormones to be, put in the milk. Cows, were never meant to roam. Cows were meant to roam around on pastures, eat grass until they're big enough to slaughter them, and eat, and that's where you would think our beef comes from. But if that's what you think, you're sadly mistaken. American milking cows are not cows that have recently given birth and are lactating. I'm afraid they're just cows that are kept in a cage big enough for them to stand in. They're pumped full of hormones in order to induce lactation, which leaves us with a hormone-infested milk. And all the dairy products make that this milk is used for is infested with hormones, and it's a big reason for early development in young girls. And as for the beef cows, they spend 90% of their lives in a stable no bigger than they are, with just enough room to stand. They get absolutely no exercise. In order to keep them big and muscular, they pump our beef full of steroids, which in turn gets into the meat that we eat. And as for farming, the government will not allow you to even operate a farm unless you meet their standards, which includes using poisonous pesticides, preservatives, and things that kill off essential nutrients and vitamins in our food. As a result, we have depleted our immune systems nearly 80% in the last century, as well as affected the ecosystem. So basically, eating today is just making you sick, and then you go to the doctor, yet another one of the U.S. government's henchmen, where they pump you full of pharmaceuticals, and until you die, basically. Now my fiance, for example, she's diabetic. I would never tell her not to take her insulin, because insulin is a natural substance that her body lacks. But people who take damaging pain medication antidepressants,